Okay, posting a few additional videos here since you may have seen that direct objects and indirect objects, as well as transitive and intransitive, that video appeared. We're going to talk about the other side of that coin that was mentioned in that video. And I always show them both to start because I want students to remember this pattern, the opposite of these two ideas, or they're not ideas, but two grammatical lessons dealing with the parts of speech of verbs. I use the two-sided coin as a way to remember that we have action verbs, but we can also have linking verbs. And so yesterday when I made that video, we talked about the idea that, you can have direct objects and indirect objects. You can label your verb as transitive or intransitive. But today we're going to talk about this side of it. So one side of the coin is your action verb. Now we're jumping over to the linking verb. And this lesson is all about predicate nouns and predicate adjectives. And the connection here is that while on this side you can only have a direct object or an indirect object when you have an action verb, you can only have your predicate nouns and predicate adjectives when you have a linking verb. And as students get further up the grades, one of the things that I expect them to be able to do very quickly is to see or identify a linking verb, very easily. It's like a clue. It's something that sets you off right away as you're reading the sentence. Oh, linking verb. Okay, these are the things that I could be seeing in the sentence now. These are the things that I can't be seeing in the sentence now. But a linking verb, first of all, what is its purpose? Well, by its name, a linking verb links. It's a connection. And I love to use the equal sign as kind of a symbol to represent the linking verb. For a couple of reasons. One, it looks like the double underline that we usually underline our verbs with anyways, but it acts as a connection, a linking device in the sentence. And a linking verb's job is to connect or link the subject to the predicate of a sentence. It's very basic. Without a linking verb, since we don't have the action verb, without the linking verb, we wouldn't have a sentence. Okay? We would just have random words. Michael in the morning. Okay, but that's not a sentence. We don't know what he did in the morning. We don't know if he woke up, if he just is in the morning. So we have the subject part of the sentence and we have the predicate part of the sentence. We need something in there to connect the two. So that's the linking verb's purpose. It's its job. And I also always tell students that there are kind of like the big four. The big four being verbs that are very common linking verbs. And they all start with the singular version or present tense is. Is a linking verb, and it's one of those big four. Very common. You see that one used more often than probably any other linking verb out there, especially in school, grammatical lessons, that sort of thing. If you go into the past tense of is, then you are also looking at was. It's the same thing. It's just past tense. And then if you go into the plural version of is, okay, you have are. And there's a past tense to that as well, were. This is the big four. If you can remember those big four linking verbs, you're probably going to be able to identify most linking verbs right off the bat. Now there are other linking verbs out there as well. A lot of the senses can be linking verbs, depending on how they're used in the sentence. For example, taste. Okay, this is one of our sense words. Taste can be a linking verb, or it can be an action verb. If I were to go back here just briefly and said, John tasted the apple. Okay, subject. This is an action verb because it's something that he actively did. He went out and he tasted it. He bit it and he tasted it. He's doing something. But if I rewrote the sentence now and said the apple tasted sweet, okay? The apple is the subject, and tasted is now a linking verb. And it's a linking verb because its only job is that it connects the subject to another word in the predicate, which we're going to identify very quickly. This apple isn't doing anything. It'll help us all if apples start doing things like tasting. It cannot taste actively. It just tastes a particular way. So there's the difference between an action verb and a linking verb. And again, we can see its job is to link the subject to the predicate. Now, in the whole picture here, really what I'm talking about or trying to get to is predicate nouns and predicate adjectives in comparison to direct objects and indirect objects. I want students to remember with this two-sided coin that these only exist with action verbs. These are only going to exist with linking verbs. But they're all called, they all fall under the term complements, spelled with the E. And they're, additional things in the sentence, they're just additions to the sentence. They're additions to the verb. They're additions to, what we get to experience when we read the sentence. There's eventually going to be an object complement that also exists. But knowing the difference between the two is what this is all about. So let's look at what a predicate noun and a predicate adjective really are. Well, first of all, remember, don't forget, it's only when you have a linking verb. So if we have this sentence, the apple tasted sweet, that means that somewhere in here we may have, and we probably have, a predicate noun or a predicate adjective. Well, a predicate noun, first of all, is usually labeled the PN, is a noun in the predicate that goes back and renames. This is kind of the term I like to use. It renames the subject. And sometimes students get confused with that renaming. They want to say that it describes. Well, remember, only adjectives and adverbs describe things. A noun renames. It's kind of like saying you had a nickname. Okay, TJ, also known as the speeder, or something. I don't know. Okay? It's just a way of saying it again a different way. That's its purpose. Okay. If I said the apple is a fruit, the subject is apple still. Here's one of our big four linking verbs, and it is connecting apple, the subject, to the predicate. But something in the predicate here renames apple, and it's obviously, it's fruit. Fruit is a noun, and it goes back and it renames apple. It says it another way. And, with the students, I always tell them, when you see that linking verb, just say apple, if you find the subject, equals what? It equals fruit. And now you've labeled the PN and the subject, and you know them both. The same takes place, hopefully I'm on screen here. The same takes place with a predicate adjective. Okay? In this one, for example, the apple tasted sweet. Well, sweet is not a noun. This time, sweet is an adjective. And if you have trouble remembering this, adjectives describe nouns, and this one happens to be in the predicate. So the PA goes back to describe the subject. And that's its purpose. So this one describes the subject, the PN renames the subject. And there's many examples that you could use here for predicate nouns, predicate adjectives. There's one example here that I always give that can kind of bring it to the next level. Let's say William, we'll take the name. William is a smart boy. Okay, period. Well, I'm also going to say William is a boy, and I'm going to say William is smart. And we're going to label these. The first one, William is the subject. We have a linking verb is. Boy is a noun. So this is the PN goes back to rename William. The second one, William is the subject. Is the linking verb. Smart is an adjective. So smart goes back to describe William. But now in the third example, William is a smart boy. William is a subject. We have our linking verb here. But does smart go back to describe William, or does boy rename William? Well, boy goes back to rename William, and this is our predicate noun. Most of the time, well, I shouldn't even say most of the time, all of the time, adjectives, when they exist, they come right next to the noun that they modify. So smart, in this sentence, is modifying boy. The only time that you will have an adjective that doesn't come right next to, but right next up to its noun that it's describing, is when you're dealing with a predicate adjective, because you're separated by your linking verb. So that's just kind of a clue for you. Adjectives, they usually come next to their nouns. Predicate adjectives are describing the subject, so they're the only time you're going to see one separated there. Don't forget, only with linking verbs, PNs and PAs.